Hello, I'm Dongjae Kwon. I'm a PhD student at the AI Graduate School at South Korea. Our team has investigated the validity of crowdsourced experiments for Tacton evaluation in both pairwise similarity and metaphor ratings. I'm excited to share the results with you. Nowadays, tactile display have become a promising technology for transmitting information. Tacton, a composite term of tactile and icon, is a well-known concept for conveying information with tactile signals. Many applications, including VR controllers, mobile devices, and haptic suits, have utilized tactons to maximize their value in end-user applications. To design effective tactons, haptic designers usually collect pairwise similarity and analyze the perceptual space of tactons to find the most distinguishable subset. Designers often run a controlled lab experiments to obtain reliable and robust dissimilarities by controlling the haptic hardware, users' attention, posture, and other environmental factors. However, the lab study requires a face-to-face experiment, which results in an additional cost. One recent alternative including running user studies online with crowdsourcing platforms. A few studies have crowdsourced haptic data collections using mobile devices, especially for affective or subjective ratings. The results were promising, but they focused on a small subset of tactons that varied various parameters systematically. Therefore, the crowdsourced haptic studies require the validation on a variety of tactons. To investigate the validity, we evaluated the consistency of responses between lab and crowdsourced settings by comparing pairwise similarity rating and metaphor rating for two different tacton sets. We had two research questions. First, can crowdsourced experiments achieve consistent results with the lab setting for perceptual dissimilarities for tacton sets? Second, can crowdsourcing provide reliable results for assessing the subjective metaphor rating? To answer these questions, we designed two user studies. Pairwise similarity rating test is performed in user study 1 and 2, and metaphor rating test is performed only in user study 2. And we developed on iOS applications for the two rating tests. Our app consists of 4 sessions. First, participants input their demographic data in initial session. Second, they were asked to fill all the vibration tactons at least once in training session. Third, participants gave similarity rating for each pair of tactons after filling both vibrations. Finally, they finished the experiment by providing any comments in feedback session. In user study 1, we selected 12 tactons by varying 3 parameters, including carrier frequency, duration, and envelope frequency. These parameters are used for affective rating tests in previous work, but they did not assess pairwise similarities. We measured the similarity rating for all pairs of the 12 tactons with 67 trials. And we added one attention test pair consisting of an identical pattern to check whether the participants focused on the experiment or not. Using these vibrotactile tactons, we ran 2 experiments in crowdsourced and lab settings. For the crowdsourced setting, 20 participants were recruited. Participants were paid $3 and the experiment took about 15 minutes. Various iOS phones were used as you can see on the right side. For the lab settings, 20 participants were recruited as well. participants were paid $11.5 and the experiment took about 15 minutes. All the participants used the same iPhone 11 Pro Max. They were asked to listen to the pink noise from the noise-canceling headphone during the lab experiments. To compare pairwise similarity rating from lab and crowdsourced in user study 1, we used Spearman rank correlation coefficient and multidimensional scaling analysis. Spearman rank correlation value was 0.93, showing strong consistency between lab and crowdsourced results. From multidimensional scaling analysis, we derived 3D perceptual spaces and plotted them in a 2D plot as shown in this figure. As you can see in the figure, the three vibrotactile parameters were aligned with the three dimensions clearly. In user study 2, we sampled 14 tactons from VT library that includes 120 tactons with user annotated metaphors. From the VT library, we selected 7 metaphors with minimal overlap between the different metaphors. The 7 metaphors are listed on the left side. They include alarm, animal, engine, heartbeat, jumping, tapping, and walking. The temporal plots for the 14 tactons are shown on the right. Using these metaphor-based tactons, we ran 2 experiments in crowdsourced and lab settings. For the crowdsourced setting, 20 participants were recruited. Participants were paid $4.5 and the experiment took about 40 minutes. Various iOS mobile phones were used as you can see in the right side. For the lab setting, 20 participants were recruited too. Participants were paid $15 and the experiment took about 25 minutes. All the participants used the same iPhone 11 Pro Max. Participants were asked to listen to the pink noise from the noise-canceling headphones during lab experiments. The pairwise rating in user study 2 resulted in a Spearman correlation value of 0.91 between lab and crowdsourced data. These results demonstrate strong consistency between the two settings as in user study 1. Multi-dimensional scaling analysis of the perceptual space suggests the 4-dimensional coordinates. We present the result in 2D plots as shown in this figure. Along the first 2 dimensions, the spatial configuration of tactons were largely consistent between the two settings as you can see in the highlighted sample points. Our second research question was, can metaphor rating have consistent results between lab and crowdsourced setting? For answering these questions, we used equivalence testing to assess whether the metaphor rating were statistically equivalent in two settings. The results showed that the rating were statistically equivalent for 60%, different in 10%, and are certain in 30% of lab and crowdsourced comparison. These results implied that metaphor rating may require study design with more control for participant demographic and background. Now, I'd like to sum up my presentation with the following observations. First, pairwise similarity rating showed a high consistency between lab and crowdsourced setting for both systematic and metaphoric tactons. Therefore, perceptual similarity rating tests can provide valid results in crowdsourced experiments. Second, metaphor rating can depend on many factors such as users' demographics and background. Therefore, cognitive tests may require more controlled study design to obtain consistent results and lab and crowdsourced studies. Thank you for listening to my talk. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at the conference.